Hello and welcome to the Connection Loop podcast. I'm Shannon from Dubb.com, and I'm here with Jennifer Spor, and we're going to talk about some amazing topics: leadership, purpose, spirituality. But I want to start this off by just please, Jennifer, introduce yourself to our audience and who you are and what you do.
Thanks, Shannon. I'm so excited to be here and have this conversation today. My name is Jennifer Spor, and I'm a conscious leadership coach. I am also a podcast host of the Awaken on Purpose podcast, and I actually support conscious women leaders who want to activate change in the world through having their own purpose-driven business. So I'm super excited to be here, and just a little bit more about my background. So prior to starting my coaching practice a few years ago, I worked in corporate. I actually worked in the retail industry for over 23 years. And it was actually my own journey of awakening or transitioning, from a life where I was unfulfilled into finding kind of really rediscovering myself. It was that journey that actually inspired me to support other people and aligning with their higher path. So now here I am.
That's awesome. And on this podcast, we love to talk about ways to connect with people, but repeatable and scalable ways to connect with people. And so these topics really tie into that. I mean, spirituality, purpose, leadership. Where would you like to start? I mean, for me, like from your journey, what's the biggest takeaway? Just to start off the podcast for those people just tuning in, what's the biggest takeaway for personal development that can help you in your business life and beyond? What you would say?
Self-awareness.
Oh, that's a great one.
Yeah, the willingness to lead yourself. I really, in my experience, self-awareness really serves as the basis for everything else that is great in leadership, in business, and in life, right? So, like some people say, it's emotional intelligence, spiritual intelligence, empathy, and the list goes on and on. But it really all goes back to self-awareness, but then not just having the awareness, but also having the willingness to see that there is another way, or to explore that there is another path. I believe that we are actually eternal students. We're all on a journey here, and everything is an opportunity for learning.
That's awesome. And so how do you begin that journey? If you were just starting that journey today, what's the first step you could take towards just increasing our awareness around personal development?
Yeah, I mean, really, that's a fantastic question. The best place to start would really just to start out by assessing your own emotions. Our emotions can be a great GPS, so to speak, right? So yeah. Like if there's any area of your life where you're not feeling joy, because despite what many of us are kind of programmed or conditioned to believe, abundance and prosperity is our birthright. So if there's an area in your life where you're not feeling that, that would be the first place that I would start. And then I was going to say, and then based upon what your own self-assessment is, right, that actually starts to serve as the basis to determine, like, what are those steps that you need to take to move forward to start experiencing more of what you do want versus what you don't.
And how can you, that's awesome. And how can you tell you're making progress in that? Like, is there some kind of markers? Like, let's say you're 1 month into this journey of trying to make progress in these areas. Mm-hmm. What are some milestones or markers that so you're making progress with this?
Yeah, I mean, it's really in how you're feeling, right? I mean, if you're starting to feel better, to feel more in alignment, or more in integrity. I like to use that word, having integrity with ourselves, because a lot of people, and I've been in this place as well, we are primarily concerned with having integrity with other people, but we often break promises to ourselves, and we do it so much that we don't really realize to the extent of that. I feel like I'm going off on a bit of a tangent here.
Yeah, no,
but does that answer your question?
Absolutely. I mean, that's such a, gosh, I mean, you have to start with yourself, right? That totally makes sense to me. You have to start with yourself.
Yes. Yes.
Because otherwise it's not gonna affect anyone else.
Yes. In order to effectively lead others, you have to lead yourself. And I present myself as a conscious leadership coach, and I talk about how I work with conscious women leaders, right? The reason why I do that is because there is a difference between conscious leadership and traditional leadership. Traditional leadership, in the established, landscape of the business and the workplace, really evolved more around, making strategic decisions maybe, but not so much around the well-being of the people, not just putting customers first, but also considering the well-being of the internal customer, right? Which is ourselves and which would be our team members or employees.
So for people watching, I mean, especially leaders, that phrase "leading up" is really cool, and that hooks me. What is leading up? And then we can dive into that and further, from a place of mission, vision, and purpose. That's the title of the podcast.
Yeah.
But let's start with that first part. What does leading up mean to you?
Yeah. So leading up is really leading forward, right? I think everyone can probably relate to what I'm about to say, but, leadership, I've always believed to be a sacred responsibility, but with everything that has been going on in the world for the last year and a half, and that's still going on, right? We're all in uncharted territory, and it's obvious that the old paradigms of leadership no longer work for how we need to move forward, not just in the landscape of the business world, but on the planet as a collective. So when I say leading up, that's really what I'm thinking about, is leading ourselves and then leading others forward. Leading and living from the inside out, basically.
And wow, so is that in the mission aspect? So that explains leading out. And then you say you want to do it from a place of mission, vision, and purpose. How do you find that mission and vision, and when do you know you found it? I mean, it's sort of kind of similar to my earlier question, but it's like on the when you're going on these paths, it's like having some kind of acknowledgement that you're making progress is so important. So like, how do you find and settle on a mission?
Yes. So each one of us has a purpose, right? And I'm sure you've probably heard the term before. It's, a lot more streamlined than it has been in previous years. But purpose isn't a thing that you find. Purpose is something that everyone has, but it's more of an embodiment of who you are. It's the essence of who you are. It's your beliefs, it's your values, it's your strengths, and when I say strengths, that can be learned skills and natural talents. And so leading from a place of mission, vision, and purpose is being aligned with your purpose, with the essence of who you are. And when you're clear on that, that's what helps to create clarity in your mission. Does that make sense? It's like you have that North Star. And it's also always something, your mission is always something that you're passionate about too.
The North Star, that's cool. I've heard like the term North Star metrics in terms of like in business. So we talk about like, oh, you're trying to get to your North Star metrics, and that's like a metric you're trying to get to, but it seems like very far off. But I really like that way of contextualizing your mission as well. Like that, that's your North Star.
Yeah.
And how do you integrate that mission into how you lead, I guess would be my next question.
Yeah, I mean, well, your mission is, actually I should back up a little bit and say, so your beliefs and values are integrated into your mission. And so it's a part of how you lead. Does that make sense? So you're leading from your beliefs, from your values. You are walking the talk, which is also something that has been missing in the previous, a lot of the roles in leadership, I should say.
Yeah, yeah. And especially, I mean, in this new environment, I mean, we're living in a new world now where it's we're so much of us are apart. I mean, there's still some organizations that are doing some kind of physical office style, but I mean, really for the most of the pandemic, we've had to shift into remote work. And I think there's a lot of talk about how these trends are gonna stay. I mean, now that we've seen it work for a lot of businesses. And so how do you integrate leadership and purpose into a team? Like, how do you empower your team with their personal development and that kind of connection with them when they're so apart?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really, for some reason, the term that keeps popping into my mind right now is mini-me. But, when you have a leader and then you have the team, that the leader is overseeing, right? It's important to have employees, to have teams that are not only optimized in their roles, but team members that also have similar values, similar beliefs to the leader, right? So you're looking for alignment. And so you're looking for those similar beliefs and values with the team members, and then also making sure that they're put into roles that complement their individual strengths and values as well. And when you seek to do that, success is inevitable. I mean, this is the reason why, the biggest reason why there are so many people that are in careers or doing work or even have started their own businesses and they're unfulfilled or they're really struggling. It's because something within that equation that we're discussing is not in alignment for them.
And so how is the remote aspect, hindered it or even aided? I mean, is the fact that a lot of businesses are remote, is that helping this or is it hurting it, would you say?
So I would say it's helping.
Really?
And when I say it's helping, it's because it's bringing forward, I don't know if deficiencies are really the right word to use, but it's bringing forward a lot of things that maybe were swept under the rug before, right? It's like, communication skills maybe didn't have to be as refined within a team when everyone was in person in a meeting room together or, just working in the same building together. When everybody is remote, then things such as effective communication skills really come to the forefront. So when I say it's helping, because I believe that it is helping a lot of people to get clearer on what is fitting for them in their career and what isn't, but then also getting clear on how they can further refine their skills.
Wow, that's so interesting. I mean, I would agree now that I think of it, because instinctively you might think, oh, separating people is gonna, cause that to kind of break down. But in a way, it does highlight it because it now has to be logged, and either it's written or you're sending a video update, or it's even a photo, but it's logged through Slack or Asana or some of these digital tools, and then you can reflect on it and say, how are these, what's the most effective way to communicate this? How am I making other people feel? Because you still get that emotional feedback. Of course, you can tell if someone is, maybe if just the tone of their voice on the Zoom call. And you can say, wait, was that something I said over it? Maybe I need to add an extra emoji or say just please, or simple things like that. So that's really interesting to me. I think I've seen that. But how is there? I still think there is sort of this sense where, like, you have to figure out how to create that workflow, because you could fall into something with a team if you go at it from an angle that is maybe new to it, or you're not aware of maybe the different the technologies that you can leverage or workflows that you can adapt to. Suddenly your team is very fragmented, So maybe there's leaders out there that are experiencing that, or you know, even parts of their team are not as engaged. What would you say to those leaders to kind of reinvigorate that connectivity?
Communication is super important. Again, effective communication, but also effective time management. So, you know, now being an entrepreneur, but I also have a corporate background as well, and managed a huge team of people. You know, having a routine for the doors to stay open, basically, to communicate any potential issues, but also successes are important. So definitely scheduling regular touch bases with your direct reports to ensure that you're providing them with an opportunity to communicate, because assuming that an issue can be brought up in a meeting type of setting, you know, isn't a great assumption to make, right? Because some people may not feel like they can speak up in a particular environment, if that makes sense. So really giving each of your people an opportunity, a regular way to be able to reach out to you.
That's a great actionable tip we can take away if you're listening. Definitely make sure that you're communicating and give people an opportunity to reach out. Well, this has been an awesome conversation. I think what are a few last to kind of summarize and wrap up? You know, what are some things you'd like if you could communicate to every single business person in the world right now? Kind of what would you say? I'm so curious. That's a big question.
Lead by example. I know that authenticity has become kind of a buzzword, but be you. You know, be you. Lead by example. Be transparent. That's, you know, that would be my advice.
That's amazing. I love that. Well, thank you so much for joining this podcast. And if anyone wants to find you, your link is right there. And any other like social media, want to shout out for our audio listeners of our podcast as well.
Absolutely. I'm sorry, you're asking me for other social media.
Where's your social media?
So obviously my website, jenniferspor.com, you can reach out to me there. I'm most active on the LinkedIn platform, but I'm also on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining on this episode of Connection Loop, a podcast from Dubb.com, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks for joining.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.